Every complaint you speak is a seed of scarcity. It may sound dramatic, but think about it for a moment. What if your daily frustrations aren't just venting, but quiet lessons you're teaching your subconscious about what kind of life to expect? What if every sigh, every nothing ever works for me, every why does this always happen, is a signal to the universe to keep things exactly as they are? Before we go further, I want to invite you to do something simple yet powerful. In the comments, write down one phrase you often say when you're upset or tired, something you know you complain about. It might be about work, money, relationships, or even yourself. Just one phrase. The reason I'm asking you to do this is because awareness begins in the open. The moment you name a word, you start to release its hold. Hidden words rule us. Spoken ones begin to lose power. Here's the truth most people never realize. Our words don't just describe our reality, they design it. In ancient Jewish wisdom, this isn't poetry, it's law. The Hebrew term dibur, speech, shares its root with davar, meaning thing or matter. In other words, what we speak becomes what exists. And complaints, even innocent ones, are forms of creation too. But they build scarcity instead of blessing. When you say, "I'm always behind," the world hears, "Keep me behind." When you say, "I can't afford that," you're not reporting a fact, you're issuing a command. You train your reality, and it obeys. We think we're expressing emotion, but we're programming the soil of our lives. I used to believe complaints were harmless, even healthy, a way to release frustration. But over time, I began to notice patterns. Every person I knew who lived in lack also lived in language of lack. They weren't cursed, they were consistent. Every day they watered the same seeds, words of defeat, irritation, scarcity, and wondered why nothing new would grow. In Jewish tradition, there's a sacred awareness about speech. Words are treated as living forces, carriers of energy that return to their source. That's why blessings are spoken aloud and complaints are warned against. They travel, multiply, and eventually echo back. When you understand that, you stop speaking without thinking. And this is where the danger lies. Complaining doesn't just describe poverty, it trains it. It conditions the mind to expect disappointment and instructs life to deliver more of it. It feels like a release, but it's actually rehearsal. Every "this always happens to me" strengthens the neural pathway that ensures it will. I know this may feel unsettling, maybe even unfair. How could something as small as speech have so much power? But here's the secret that changed everything for me. If complaints can build limitation, gratitude can build liberation. The same mouth that trains scarcity can train abundance. Let me show you why, spiritually and scientifically. Complaining doesn't just describe lack, it manufactures it. In the spiritual heart of Judaism, words are not mere expressions, they are instruments of creation. The sages teach that the world was not built by hands but by speech. And God said, "Let there be light." Those 5 words brought forth all existence. From that moment, speech was never just communication, it was creation. This idea is central to understanding why complaining carries so much unseen power. In Hebrew, the term lashon hara means evil speech, but it isn't limited to insults or lies. It refers to any words that spread darkness, even when true. When you say, "I'm broke," "life is unfair," or "nothing ever works out," you are not only expressing a feeling, you are releasing an energetic command that reshapes your environment. The Talmud says, "A person's words build his world." That's not philosophy, it's mechanics. Speech constructs invisible architecture around us. And just as we can build, we can also destroy. Every complaint, every bitter remark, chisels away at our sense of possibility. The more we voice lack, the more we train our reality to mirror it. In modern psychology, there's a parallel idea: neural reinforcement. Every time you repeat a statement, your brain strengthens the pathway that connects that thought to emotion and behavior. In other words, every complaint rewires your mind to find more reasons to complain. Eventually, it becomes automatic, a loop of scarcity disguised as truth. Spiritually and scientifically, the result is the same. You experience what you repeatedly declare. Poverty, then, is not only a financial state but a linguistic one. It's a mindset constructed word by word. until you live inside the sentences you've spoken. There's a Hebrew concept called koch hadibur, the power of speech. It's believed that when a person speaks, they draw divine energy from the unseen into form. Every word is an invitation to creation. If you speak fear, fear answers. If you speak gratitude, blessing responds. The universe listens, not to your desires, but to your declarations. I remember reading a passage that said, "Do not call yourself poor, lest heaven agree with you." That line struck me like lightning. It wasn't superstition. It was a reminder that words are contracts. Each complaint is a signature on the document of your own limitation. So when we say, "I never get a break," we are not describing a bad day. We are codifying a belief. And once a belief takes shape, the world bends around it. This isn't punishment. It's participation. You and I are co-authors of our reality, and speech is our pen. The question then is not whether our words have power, they do. The real question is, what are they building? What world are they shaping while we think we're only venting? Because if our complaints build scarcity, it means we're training our lives to repeat it. And to understand just how deep that training goes, we need to look at how complaining rewires the soul itself. Complaining feels harmless. It slips out between breaths, tucked into sentences like seasoning on a meal. This traffic is terrible. I can't stand my job. Why does this always happen to me? But beneath its casual tone, complaint carries weight. Each word a thread that quietly weaves the fabric of your reality. The mechanism is subtle. A complaint begins as release. It feels like relief, a way to unload frustration. But the moment it's spoken, it becomes identity. Every time you repeat a complaint, you're telling your subconscious, "This is who I am. I am the one who never has enough. I am the one to whom things go wrong." And because the mind is faithful, it builds consistency around that narrative. It starts seeking confirmation, filtering out evidence that contradicts it. Ancient Jewish wisdom teaches that every word creates an echo. The angels, they say, carry speech upward, turning it into decree. That means when you complain, your words don't vanish. They circle back as experiences designed to match what you've declared. Nothing ever works out becomes a prophecy that fulfills itself. I once knew a man named Eli who embodied this pattern perfectly. He complained about everything, his work, his finances, even the weather. "I'm cursed," he'd say with a half smile, as though joking. Yet his life followed those words faithfully. Every project failed, every opportunity slipped away, and he'd shrug, saying, "See, I told you." He didn't realize he wasn't predicting. He was programming. Psychology mirrors this idea. Complaining strengthens what neuroscientists call the default network, a pattern of thinking the brain reuses to conserve energy. The more you complain, the more your mind defaults to negativity. It becomes the path of least resistance. You don't even notice when you do it anymore. It's automatic, a form of self-conditioning. Spiritually, complaint is a distortion of prayer. Both arise from the same impulse, the desire to be heard, to express what's missing. But while prayer invites divine participation, complaint rejects it. Prayer says, "I trust there's meaning." Complaint says, "There's no order here." One opens the heart, the other closes it. When I finally understood this, it changed the way I listened to my own words. I began catching myself mid-sentence, pausing when I said, "This is always happening to me." I replaced it with, "This is teaching me something." It wasn't easy. At first it felt fake. But slowly I noticed how the emotional weight of my days began to shift. Complaining had been a habit, not a truth. Gratitude, when practiced, became the new pattern. This is the invisible mechanism of complaint. It doesn't just express suffering, it trains it. Every repetition sharpens the identity of lack until it becomes familiar, almost comfortable. But once we see how deeply complaint is wired into both soul and brain, we can also see the path out. The same force that builds scarcity can be reversed, and the wisdom to do that lies in the oldest spiritual law of all. In Jewish tradition, there is a law that few understand fully, Shmirat Halashon, the guarding of one's tongue. It teaches that words are not neutral. They are spiritual instruments capable of creation or destruction. And according to this law, the prosperity of a person is tied directly to the purity of their speech. The Talmud says, "A person's life and livelihood are determined by the words that leave their mouth." It's a startling thought. We often imagine wealth as something earned solely by work or circumstance, but ancient wisdom insists it begins with sound. The tongue, it says, is like a pen dipped in divine ink. Each phrase writes a sentence into the fabric of reality. When we complain, we're not just releasing frustration. We're rejecting partnership with the divine flow of life. To say, "My life is hard," is to turn away from the invisible abundance that still surrounds us. It's as if we're standing in a field full of grain and declaring there's no food. The words themselves blind us to what's already available. This is why Shmirat Halashon isn't merely a moral rule, it's a spiritual technology. By guarding the tongue, one guards the gate of creation. Every complaint shuts the gate a little more. Every word of gratitude opens it wider. I remember an image my teacher once gave me. He said, "Imagine your words as weather. Complaints are clouds. Gratitude is sunlight. If you complain long enough, your life feels gray and heavy. Not because fate turned against you, but because your own speech has blocked the light. Every phrase you utter contributes to your atmosphere, and eventually, you start to live inside the climate you've spoken into being. This aligns perfectly with psychology. Words trigger emotion, emotion triggers action, and repeated action shapes circumstance. When we say, "Nothing ever works," we unconsciously act as though nothing will. We move less, risk less, expect less. Over time, those choices sculpt the outcome we feared most. And so, language becomes law. The sages say that the tongue is both the smallest and the most powerful organ of the body. It can bless or curse, build or burn. When we choose words of gratitude, we align our energy with expansion, the same force that fuels creation itself. When we choose complaint, we align with contraction, the energy of limitation. So ask yourself, what kind of weather have your words been creating lately? Do you live under a self-made storm, or do you allow the sun to reach you? It's not about never expressing pain. It's about how you express it. There is a difference between "I'm struggling" and "I'm learning through struggle." One imprisons, the other transforms. Because once you understand that your tongue writes your fate, you begin to speak differently, carefully, consciously, gratefully. And yet, there's another layer to all this, one more subtle and more human. Why do we cling so fiercely to complaining even when we know it harms us? There's a strange comfort in complaining. It feels like warmth in the cold, like proof that we're not alone in our struggles. We complain to connect, to be understood, to feel seen. It's a universal language of frustration. Yet what begins as bonding slowly becomes bondage. We get addicted to it, emotionally, socially, even neurologically. When I started observing myself, I realized that complaining wasn't always about solving problems. It was about belonging. It was a way to say, "See me, I'm struggling too." In groups, it often became currency. Who could suffer more? Who had the heavier load? The conversation turned into a competition of pain, and in that competition, no one won. Psychologists call this co-rumination, a cycle where people bond through shared negativity. It creates temporary intimacy but reinforces hopelessness. Spiritually, it's a form of shared hypnosis, multiple souls agreeing to stay small together. When you complain and someone agrees, you feel validated, but both of you have just built a stronger cage. There's also the biochemical side. Complaining triggers small bursts of dopamine, the same reward chemical that comes from gossip or sugar. It gives you a fleeting sense of satisfaction, but afterward, you're emptier than before. It's emotional junk food, comforting, addictive, and destructive over time. In Jewish mysticism, this addiction has a deeper name, klipa, meaning shell. The sages teach that negativity is a shell that traps divine light inside it. When we complain, We strengthen the shell and bury the spark. When we bless, we break the shell and release that hidden light back into the world. Every complaint, then, is not just wasted breath, it's captured energy. Every word of gratitude is liberation. I remember catching myself one morning, mid-complaint. I was standing in line at a store, irritated, whispering to myself about how slow everything was. Then it hit me. I was feeding the shell. I was choosing to bury my own light. That realization stopped me. I took a breath and whispered instead, "Thank God I have time to wait." It sounded absurd, but something shifted. The irritation melted, replaced by a quiet sense of peace. That moment taught me that gratitude is not denial, it's redirection. The truth is, complaining becomes habit because it gives us something predictable: attention, sympathy, familiarity. Gratitude feels foreign at first because it asks us to surrender control, to trust that there's goodness even when we can't see it. But here's the paradox. The very energy we waste on complaint is the energy we need for transformation. When we use our voice to condemn life, we drain it. When we use it to bless life, we charge it. So the addiction to negativity isn't a curse, it's an invitation. It's a signal that the soul is starving for a higher form of speech. And that's where the true transformation begins, with learning how to turn every complaint into a doorway of gratitude. Gratitude is not a feeling, it's a discipline of speech. The Hebrew phrase hakarat hatov means recognition of the good. It's not passive thankfulness, it's the act of seeing light even while standing in shadow. This is the antidote to complaint, the spiritual pivot from scarcity to abundance, from noise to harmony. When I first learned this concept, it struck me how simple yet demanding it was. To recognize the good doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine. It means naming what is still right, even when much feels wrong. It's a form of courage. Complaining is automatic. Gratitude is intentional. And intention is where transformation lives. Jewish tradition teaches that the first words a person should say upon waking are Modeh Ani, I give thanks. Before checking messages, before moving a muscle, before even opening your eyes fully, you acknowledge the miracle of consciousness. The sages say that gratitude said before thought plants the seed for a day aligned with blessing. Words first, feelings later. Speak it until you feel it. I decided to try this for myself. Every morning before touching my phone, I whispered, "Thank you for this breath. Thank you for this day." At first it felt forced, mechanical. But within days my mornings shifted. I began to notice sunlight through the window, the quiet between moments, the rhythm of breath. Gratitude started to rewire how I experienced reality, and that's exactly what it does. Neuroscience confirms that gratitude reshapes brain activity. It strengthens the pathways associated with optimism and resilience. Spiritually, it works the same way. Every expression of thankfulness strengthens the soul's capacity to see blessing. When you practice grateful speech, you are literally training your inner world to recognize abundance before it manifests. I remember hearing a rabbi say, "A grateful person doesn't have more, they see more." That sentence has stayed with me ever since. Gratitude doesn't change how much you own, it changes how much you perceive. And perception is the gateway to expansion. To test this, I once challenged a small group of people to go a single day without complaint. One full day of speaking only in gratitude or silence. By evening, many said it was the hardest thing they'd ever done. One woman told me, "I didn't realize how addicted I was to negativity until I tried to stop." But she also said something beautiful. By the end of the day, I felt lighter, like I'd been cleaning the air around me. That's what grateful speech does. It purifies the atmosphere of your life. It removes the static of complaint so that the frequency of abundance can be heard again. But the question remains, how do we sustain it? How do we rewire a lifetime of habitual complaining into a new pattern of blessing? The answer lies in a simple but profound practice, a daily rewiring of language itself. Rewiring language begins with intention, but it's sustained through repetition. Words are habits of the tongue, and habits, whether mental or verbal, reshape the mind. In Jewish tradition, The act of blessing, baracha, is one of the most powerful ways to redirect that habitual energy. A blessing isn't just a thank you, it's a declaration that acknowledges divine presence in everything, even in what feels ordinary. When you say Baruch Hashem, thank God, you are not reporting an event, you are aligning with a pattern. You are telling life, I see you here, even in this. That alignment begins to train your mind to search for good instead of grievance. The more you bless, the more your perception bends toward light. I began to apply this like a daily workout. Whenever I caught myself about to complain, I would stop and ask, how can I bless this instead? Stuck in traffic? Thank God I have a car. Late to a meeting? Thank God I have work. Tired? Thank God my body still moves. At first it sounded naive, almost forced, but the energy changed. I could feel my frustration dissolving into calm. Gratitude didn't erase the situation, it transformed my position within it. This is the rewiring process. You take the same circumstance and give it new language. The external world stays the same, but the internal frequency changes. Complaint and blessing are two sides of the same coin. They both name reality, but one seals it while the other sanctifies it. Over time, this practice becomes reflexive. Your mind begins to anticipate gratitude where it once expected complaint. You start noticing patterns, small conveniences, moments of grace, synchronicities that were always there but hidden behind habitual negativity. The more you bless, the more blessed you feel, not because more has been given, but because your sight has cleared. There's an old Hasidic teaching that says, the tongue is like a quill, and the heart is the parchment. Whatever the tongue writes, the heart becomes. By blessing instead of complaining, you rewrite the script of your inner life. The heart learns to hold light rather than shadow. I encourage a small exercise. Tonight, write down your 3 most frequent complaints. Then, beside each one, write a corresponding blessing. For example, I'm always tired becomes, thank God I'm busy with purpose. Money never lasts becomes, thank God I have something to manage. No one helps me becomes, thank God I'm strong enough to stand. Do this for 7 days. Speak each blessing aloud before you sleep. Watch what happens. Slowly, the vibration of your home, your mind, your spirit begins to shift. Complaints grow quieter. Gratitude takes the stage. And then, almost without effort, life begins to meet you differently. But nothing proves this truth more powerfully than real lives. Stories of ordinary people who changed a single habit of speech and watched their entire world transform. Let me tell you about Miriam. When I met her, she was exhausted, emotionally, spiritually, financially. A single mother of 2, she worked tirelessly, yet her life felt stuck in the same gray rhythm. She didn't realize how often she complained. I'm tired. There's never enough. Why can't things just get easier? They were small phrases, but they filled her home like background noise. When I introduced her to the practice of grateful speech, she laughed. You really think words can change my bills? I smiled and said, not your bills, your atmosphere. She agreed to try it for 1 week. Every morning, instead of I'm tired, she said, thank God I have strength for today. Instead of there's never enough, she whispered, thank God for what's here now. By the 3rd day, she told me something had shifted. Not in her bank account, but in her spirit. It's strange, she said. I feel lighter. I don't wake up angry anymore. A month later, she called me crying. Not from sadness, but joy. A friend had offered her a new position at work with better pay and flexible hours. She said, I swear it's like the world heard me differently. I told her, it did because you spoke differently. Then there was David, a businessman who had everything on paper, success, comfort, status, but he was haunted by stress. His favorite phrase was, I'm drowning. It became his mantra. His mind, loyal to his words, began to make that true. He lost sleep, lost focus, lost joy. When we spoke, I asked him to replace I'm drowning with I'm learning to flow. He looked at me skeptically, but he tried it. Within weeks, his tone changed. "You know," he said, "things are still busy, but I don't feel like I'm suffocating anymore. It's like the current slowed down." This is what grateful speech does. It doesn't erase challenge, it transforms relationship. It turns chaos into rhythm, burden into blessing, repetition into revelation. One of the most profound transformations I've seen came from a woman named Yael. "For years," she said, "no one ever helps me." It was her shield against disappointment. When she began replacing it with "I'm surrounded by help," she noticed something miraculous. People started offering. Friends volunteered, neighbors checked in, doors opened. She didn't summon magic. She allowed alignment. The universe had always been willing. Her words had simply been blocking the invitation. These stories aren't exaggerations. They are reflections of a universal law. Energy follows expression. When we speak gratitude, we attune to abundance. When we speak lack, we train limitation. The vibration of our words becomes the frequency of our life. And this is true for everyone. You don't have to be religious or mystical to experience it. Gratitude is not a faith, it's a frequency. And when you learn to live in it, prosperity becomes the echo of your own voice. But to understand why this law is so enduring, and why it's at the heart of Jewish prosperity, we must step deeper into the philosophy that binds speech, soul, and abundance together. In Jewish philosophy, prosperity isn't measured by what you possess. It's measured by what flows through you. True wealth is circulation, not accumulation. It's the ability to receive, to give, to bless, and to expand the goodness entrusted to you. And that flow is sustained by one thing above all: the way you speak. The book of Genesis begins with a lesson in prosperity disguised as creation. God doesn't build, He speaks. 10 utterances bring the universe into being. Each phrase, "and God said," sets reality in motion. This is not just theology, it's a blueprint. Creation responds to articulation. The world even now is structured by speech. The sages teach that humans are B'Tselem Elohim, created in the image of God. That doesn't mean we share His form, it means we share His function. Like Him, we create through words. Our speech is the echo of divine speech. When we bless, we extend creation. When we complain, we contract it. One aligns us with abundance, the other aligns us with absence. This is why Judaism places such weight on gratitude. Every blessing spoken, before eating, drinking, traveling, waking, or resting, isn't ritual. It's reprogramming. It's a spiritual reminder that the source of all things is still flowing. Saying Baruch Atah Adonai, "Blessed are you, Lord," isn't flattery, it's participation. You're acknowledging divine generosity, and in doing so, you keep the channel open. Modern psychology agrees. Gratitude increases dopamine and serotonin, the very chemicals linked to motivation, clarity, and joy. It trains the brain to notice opportunity and to act upon it. That means the person who speaks gratitude doesn't just feel better, they see more, risk more, and attract more. Prosperity begins internally and manifests externally. When I realized this, I understood why complaining about money or work never helped. It blocked the current. Each negative statement closed a gate that blessings were trying to pass through. The sages describe it this way: when the mouth is open to thank, the heavens open to give. Gratitude is not a transaction, it's alignment. So when you say, "I can't get ahead," you're not describing your finances, you're commanding your flow to stop. When you say, "I'm open to new opportunities," you've already begun to create them. It's cause and effect spoken aloud. This is why Jewish prosperity isn't about chasing more, it's about stewarding what you have with conscious language. Wealth is not ownership, it's resonance. And the words you choose determine your frequency. I challenge you. For 7 days, treat every word as currency. Spend it as if it has measurable value. Speak only what you want multiplied. Bless your meals, your work, your waiting. Guard your speech like treasure. Because something extraordinary happens after those 7 days. Complaints lose their flavor. Gratitude becomes natural. And the flow that once felt distant begins to move again. Quietly, steadily, unmistakably. But before this wisdom can settle fully, there's one final piece. One closing truth that seals the circle between word, wealth, and wonder. Every word you speak plants something. Complaint sows scarcity, gratitude sows growth. That's the secret hidden in plain sight, the thread that ties every ancient teaching to every modern truth. The tongue, small as it is, carries the power to open or close the gates of prosperity. And most people live unaware that they're shaping their future sentence by sentence. Over these reflections, we've uncovered how complaint trains poverty, how habitual negativity writes limitation into the soul. But we've also learned something greater, that grateful speech retrains the spirit for abundance. It's not a metaphor, it's a mechanism. The same way a seed bends toward sunlight, your life bends toward your language. So I want to bring us back to the garden we've been tending with words. Imagine it now, each complaint you've spoken as a weed, rooted deep in the soil of your daily thoughts. And beside them, the small shoots of new phrases you've planted. Thank God I'm growing. I'm open to blessing. I'm grateful for today. Which garden do you want to water? Because every word is a drop. The sages say, the world stands on three things: on truth, on judgment, and on peace. Grateful speech carries all three. It speaks truth by acknowledging the good, it judges fairly by recognizing divine order, and it brings peace by aligning the heart with abundance. That's the Jewish secret of prosperity, speech as sacred stewardship. When your tongue blesses the world blesses you back. I've seen it in lives transformed. Miriam, who replaced exhaustion with gratitude and watched doors open. David, who changed "I'm drowning" to "I'm flowing" and found calm in chaos. Yael, who declared, "I am surrounded by help," and discovered generosity all around her. None of them changed their circumstances first. They changed their language, and reality adjusted to match it. This is what the ancients meant when they said words are worlds. Every sentence is a creation story waiting to happen. Speak complaint, and you recreate scarcity. Speak gratitude, and you recreate Eden. So as we close, I want to invite you into a small but sacred act. In the comments, write one thing you're grateful for today. Just one. Write it, not for me, but for yourself. Because words spoken publicly carry the strength of witness. When you declare gratitude out loud, you set its energy in motion. And if this message has touched you, share it with 3 people who need to hear it. 3 voices that might still be trapped in the language of complaint. Let this be your first act of blessing. Because the truth is this: your next word will shape your next world. Choose it carefully. Speak it consciously. And as we part, may these ancient words accompany you. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May His light shine upon you and grant you peace. Now go, and let your every word become a seed of abundance.